So in this first video, we're going to start the painting by putting in a sky. So that's in that top section. As you can see, just to recap, I've coated this in burnt umber. One of the reasons is we don't want white. White's a very distracting sort of colour. It's right at the end in terms of intensity. So we don't want white. We want what might be called a mid-tone. The other thing with the burnt umber is it will come through once we finish the painting. And this is the picture that we're painting from, our reference material. This burnt umber will sort of come up almost imperceptibly in the sky and in the beach and the other components of the painting, and just generate a unifying sort of colour, or unifying thread to that. So burnt umber's what we've coated the painting with. Let's have a go at mixing this. I've got some liquid here, so I'm just going to use the brushes that you've got. So I'll start off with this bigger brush. I've got my liquid here in the bowl, so I just usually what I do is get a little bit of liquid, put that in, and I'm going to have a little bit of cobalt blue. So I just sort of squeeze a little and then make a little meteor tail out to the side. I'll need some titanium white, so I'm only going to put out a few of the colours that I'm going to need. That goes out there, and I may need to top this up. A little bit of lamp black, used sparingly so I don't put too much out, and burnt umber. So they're probably as good as I'll need it. So let's pull this picture up again. So I've got my liquid here, and it's just there sort of making things flow nicely. I'm going to start with my blue. You'll notice, and this is a question of using your brush. Beginners, I'm generalising here, beginners tend to go in and they try and catch a bit of, almost like they've got a shovel, they're trying to catch some paint on their brush. Experienced painters from all the videos I've watched, and that's what I model, go in low and hard on low and soft on their painting, and just grab a little bit of that paint. That way you can control more of what is happening. Now I'm not mixing up a lot of paint here, so I may need to just increase that a bit. And I'm going to put a little bit of white in. So some of that titanium white. And, in my mind, I've got an idea of where I want to head to. I'm going to just put in a very faint amount of burnt umber. Burnt umber I'm going to call old mate because we use it a lot. And what it does is it just blunts the blueness or whatever the primary colour is, whether it's a red or a green or a yellow. It just blunts that a little bit and makes it a bit more realistic. I don't know what you think, but that is, to me, it's not out of the ballpark. That is not bad. Okay, so I'll mix up a little bit more of that. I'm obviously going to need quite a bit more blue. And my paint's gone sort of a little bit stiff now, so I'll grab a little bit of burnt umber. Some liquid. Not much. I'm way too blue now, as you can see. So this is where I add in some white, just to bulk up the mix and reduce the tone. Still looks, it's in the realms. It's not completely out of the realms of consideration. And we'll just throw a little bit. I might have put a little bit too much in there. Just a bit of burnt umber, as I said, just to make that blue a little bit more lifelike. Now I could either wipe that off, and I think that's probably good technique to show you. So I always have my paper towels at hand. Alternatively, I could have just sort of worked on that and tried to mix it in with everything else. So, look, to me, not too far off. It's a very pale blue. We're not trying to achieve everything in the first pass. This is just a first of a series of steps of our painting. And as you can see, I haven't really mixed up enough paint to cover this. I'll show you another thing to do with the colour changes in this photograph. So I use what's called Procreate. It's an app that I find very, very useful. And that's the one I want, Yallingup South. And it's got this little colour checker. So when I put my finger down, it gives me a circle, and the circle tells me, the top half of the circle tells me what that colour is, and I can look in here and it tells me that it's a mix of not a pure blue, but a blue that's moved more towards the green, still a blue, some black, some white, and some blue. Hardly any black, much closer to white and blue. Now, what's quite useful here is if I go to the top here, you can see, I don't know if you can sort of pick that up in the circle, but the top half of the circle is a little bluer than the bottom half. So that's telling me that's bluer than that. And then if I just recalibrate, I'll do it twice so that both top and bottom from that sample, that's it there. And if I compare it to here, just see how much bluer that is up that end. So what's going to happen is I'm going to fade it from a relatively darker blue to a relatively lighter blue. Whether I try and do that in one hit, probably not. But that's the sort of thing I need to do. So look, I won't kind of fill this video up with. Actually, I'm going to do it in a series of steps. So I won't bore you with me doing the whole thing, but that's essentially what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be mixing my paint, and I would be choosing to mix a slightly richer blue out on that left-hand side. So you see I'm always coming in low on this paint, trying to control the amount I've got. And a little bit of white, and then that gives me a chance to compare. I think I do need a little bit more cobalt blue in there. I've used that up pretty quickly. So I'll continue to mix up paint for this next step. It's getting a bit thick, so I just get a little bit of liquid in that mix. And that looks to me to be a little bit darker. Possibly could go even darker still. Okay, so then I might work with this sort of colour up at this top end and then sort of work it through to the end. And you've got your horizon line, so obviously you'll be trying to use your brush, you know, to make nice straight lines across the horizon with this. Okay, so I'll finish this bit now. I'll go and finish it off, and then in the next little bit, which I'll splice together with this, I'll start to add layers onto that.